But this isn't just a story about metal and mint marks. It's a story about discovery, about obsession, and about the strange way time transforms everyday objects into treasures of mythic worth. In 1960, America was on the cusp of change. Eisenhower's presidency was winding down, the space race was heating up, and a young senator named John F. Kennedy was beginning to stir the hearts of voters. Amid this optimism and unrest, the U.S. Mint was quietly striking billions of Lincoln 1-cent coins, featuring the same familiar portrait first introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of Lincoln's birth. But in the Denver Mint that year, something unusual happened. A small, almost invisible detail, an imperfection to most eyes, created one of the most sought-after cents in American coinage, the 1960 D small date Lincoln cent. Now, if you've never heard of it, that's exactly how these stories begin. Because the difference is microscopic, barely perceptible to the untrained eye. The numerals on the date, particularly the 6 and the 0, were engraved in two slightly different sizes that year, a large date and a small date. It sounds trivial, doesn't it? But numismatics, the art and science of coin collecting, thrives on the tiniest details. To a collector, those subtle variations are like fingerprints. They reveal the tools, the dies, the hands of the craftsmen who worked them. And sometimes when those fingerprints miss a line, when a die meant for one variation strikes a plancher, meant for another, the result is a coin that defies the eye ordinary. That's what happened in Denver, somewhere between the production of the small and large date dies. A transition mix-up occurred. Coins from the early batches escaped into circulation, unnoticed, uncelebrated, until decades later, when collectors began to whisper about a mysterious version fetching hundreds of thousands of dollars. Picture this. A Saturday morning in the 1990s, a retiree in Nebraska opens an old jar of pennies he's saved since his youth. He's not expecting anything special, just the faint smell of copper, a lifetime of loose change. But there it is, a coin that looks different. The numerals smaller, tighter, almost shy compared to the others. He doesn't know it yet, but he's holding a 1960 D small date Lincoln cent, one of the rarest transitional errors ever to leave a U.S. mint facility. When that coin was later appraised, it shocked everyone. Because while most of its siblings are worth a single cent, this one fetched close to $978,000. At private auction, yes, nearly $1 million for a coin that once bought a piece of bubble gum. Why would anyone pay that much for such a tiny variation? To understand that, you need to step into the mind of a collector. Collectors aren't just buyers. They're historians, storytellers, detectives searching for clues in copper and nickel. Each coin they hold connects them to a moment in time. The press of a die, the hum of machinery, the hands that first spent it. But beneath that romance lies something else. The psychology of rarity. Scarcity triggers something primal in us. It whispers, you might be the only one. And when scarcity intersects with beauty, history, and human error, the value transcends logic. In the case of the 1960 D small date, the value isn't just in the mistake. It's in the timing of the mistake. The Denver Mint, in 1960, was under immense pressure to keep up with rising demand. Production quotas were high and oversight was limited. Somewhere in that tension, an employee used a leftover small-date die, intended for early test strikes, to mint a small batch of coins alongside the new large-date ones. The result? A microscopic minting anomaly, a sliver of human imperfection that turned into numismatic perfection. It's poetic, isn't it? That a moment of oversight could produce something nearly priceless? But here's where things get even more intriguing. In recent years, advanced collectors and investors have turned to AI-driven grading technologies and high-resolution spectral imaging to authenticate and evaluate these coins. Even the smallest trace of doubling die wear or metal composition difference can affect a coin's grade and its price by hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's right. In today's market, a single shift in grading from MS65 red to MS67 red can double a coin's valuation overnight. The irony? These 1960D small dates are so rare in mint state condition that most have never been seen under modern digital scrutiny. Many remain buried in private collections, passed quietly through estates, waiting for rediscovery, and that's what fuels today's fascination. Every time a jar of pennies is poured out, there's a small electric possibility that the next hand to sift through them might pull out one of these elusive Denver cents and rewrite their own financial story. Let's pause for a moment. What if right now, sitting in a box in your garage or tucked away in your parents' attic, there lies a coin worth 6 figures? It sounds far-fetched, but history says otherwise. In 2019, a similar discovery story surfaced. A man in Pennsylvania found a 1943 bronze Lincoln cent in his lunchbox collection, a coin that should have been made of steel during World War II. He sold it for $204,000. Another collector unearthed a 1955 double-die Lincoln cent, famous for its dramatic misprint in the word liberty. He sold his find for $125,000, and yet, both pale compared to the 1960D small date, its allure enhanced by how few are confirmed to exist in pristine condition. There's a saying in the numismatic world: coins don't just tell history, they survive it. Each scratch, each toning mark, each subtle color shift tells the story of its journey. And the 1960D small date? It's a survivor from a fleeting moment, when two versions of time collided in a single year. For investors, it represents something even more powerful, a hedge against time itself, because while markets rise and fall, physical rarity endures. Gold fluctuates, stocks collapse, but a truly unique coin, a verified minting error of legendary scarcity, retains allure across generations. That's why modern wealth managers are quietly adding numismatics to their portfolios. Not for short-term profit, but for legacy. A well-curated collection is more than an investment, it's a statement. A tangible link between history, art, and human ambition. And in a world saturated with digital assets and synthetic value, holding a rare coin is a reminder of something deeply grounding: the permanence of metal, the weight of craftsmanship, the echo of America's minting heritage. Here's something most people don't know. In numismatic psychology, collectors often chase closure more than value. That's why the 1960D small date is so haunting. It feels incomplete. It exists in that gray zone of maybe you'll find one, maybe you won't. And that's precisely what keeps people searching. At coin shows, in estate sales, even in dusty old jars in Midwestern basements, there's a thrill that can't be replicated. The moment you flip a coin under the magnifying glass and realize the date looks just a bit smaller than it should, the heart skips, the hands tremble. Because what if? That feeling, hope mixed with disbelief, is the soul of collecting. So what should you look for? Experts suggest starting with the date size. On the small date 1960D Lincoln cent, the 6 and 0 are compact, with the top of the 6 sitting lower than the 9 in 1960. The D mint mark, often faintly repunched, sits delicately below the date, sometimes slightly eastward. But don't rely solely on photographs or comparisons. Lighting, angle, and coin wear can be deceptive. Authenticating one of these coins requires patience, magnification, and a trained eye. Some collectors even send their entire 1960 Lincoln cent hoards to professional grading services, hoping lightning might strike. Most return empty-handed. A few don't, and those few, those rare few, walk away with a piece of history and a market valuation that can rival luxury homes. Still, the true magic of this coin isn't just in its price tag. It's in what it represents, the accidental creation of value. A mistake that became a masterpiece. A forgotten cent that became a symbol of opportunity, and that symbolism is powerful, because it reminds us that greatness often hides in the overlooked, the dismissed, the everyday, that sometimes what we pass off as common is only waiting for someone perceptive enough to see its rarity. As the modern numismatic market evolves, the 1960D small date stands as both a caution and a calling. Caution to those who assume all coins are equal, and a calling to those who know that every piece of metal minted by human hands carries within it the potential for discovery. it's easy to believe that all the great finds have already been made, that the treasures have been unearthed, graded, and sold. But history has a way of surprising us. New varieties still emerge from old collections. Forgotten safety deposit boxes are opened. Estate sales reveal boxes untouched since the 1960s, and every time one of these coins reappears, the numismatic world pauses, holding its breath, wondering if another $1 million Lincoln has just surfaced. So the next time you handle a handful of change, pause. Turn that 1960D Lincoln over in your palm. Look closely, not just at the date, but at what it represents. Because somewhere out there, in circulation or in a coffee can beneath an old workbench, lies a tiny copper monument to chance, to history, and to the enduring power of curiosity. And if you're lucky enough or patient enough to find one, you won't just be holding a coin. You'll be holding a secret, a story that outlived its mint, and perhaps your own piece of the American legacy. How could something so common hold such immense power? What secret could a sliver of copper reveal about America's history, about wealth, about destiny itself? Let's begin this journey not in the glitter of gold or silver, but in the red-brown sheen of a 1961 Denver Mint Lincoln cent, a coin whose story whispers of mistakes, mysteries, and the unpredictable heartbeat of the collector's market. In 1961, America was standing on the edge of a new frontier. John F. Kennedy had just taken the oath of office, the nation buzzed with optimism, and the U.S. Mint was in overdrive, producing more coins than ever to feed an expanding economy. The Denver Mint alone struck over 1.7 billion Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coins that year. To most, that flood of copper meant nothing special. They were workhorse coins used for newspapers, candy, parking meters. But in the quiet hum of the minting presses, something unusual happened. A handful of dies, the metal stamps used to strike coins, bore imperfections, doubling, or slight misalignments. Some were minute, some barely detectable, but a few produced a visual effect that even now sends ripples through the numismatic world: the doubled die. On certain 1961 D. Lincoln cents, collectors have discovered faint yet undeniable doubling on the date and lettering, especially around the 1 and 9. When seen under magnification, these digits appear as ghostly shadows, as if the coin remembers being struck twice. At first glance, it looks like a minting error, a mechanical hiccup. But to a numismatist, to someone who sees history, art, and rarity bound together in metal, it's far more than that. It's a fingerprint of imperfection, a trace of humanity within the mechanical perfection of the mint. And that is precisely what collectors crave. Uniqueness within uniformity. Consider this. The value of a coin isn't born solely from its metal or its age. It emerges from context. A 1961 Denver Mint cent in average condition might be worth 1 cent today, but a flawless example, struck with an error so rare that perhaps only a handful exist, can ascend into the realm of the extraordinary. In recent years, collectors and investors have watched in awe as certain 1961 D. Lincoln cents fetch staggering sums, upwards of $975,000 at private sales and major auction houses. These weren't ordinary coins. They were time capsules, uncirculated and preserved with a brilliance that seemed almost intentional, as if fate itself protected them. Why such value? It's not merely rarity. It's the mythology that builds around a coin, the story it carries. When scarcity combines with narrative, the result is electricity. Think of it, an unassuming coin, struck during the early years of the space race, carrying both the image of Abraham Lincoln and the small Denver D beneath the date, a tiny mint mark that forever ties it to a specific place and moment in history. It's not just metal. It's a relic of optimism, of machines humming through the Cold War, of a nation obsessed with progress yet grounded in tradition. Here's where the story deepens. Collectors often speak of condition rarity. Even among billions, only a microscopic percentage survive in pristine, mint-state condition. Most 1961 D. Lincoln cents were tossed in pockets, scraped in drawers, or weathered by decades of circulation. But a few somehow were spared. Perhaps they were set aside by a child, shiny and new, kept in a jar. Or perhaps a mint employee noticed a peculiar strike and slipped one away for posterity. Those few survivors, when examined under professional grading, reveal a surface so unblemished that the light dances across the copper in waves of crimson and gold. And when one of those perfect coins bears a doubled die, or a misaligned mint mark, or an ultra-sharp strike, the market loses its composure. Because in that moment, scarcity meets beauty. But what drives such obsession? Why would someone pay nearly $1 million for a coin most people wouldn't bother bending to pick up? The answer lies not in the coin, but in us. Collectors are driven by an emotional paradox, a longing for permanence in a fleeting world. Coins outlive us. They move from one generation to another, silent witnesses to human triumph and failure. When a collector acquires a rare piece, they're not just buying metal. They're securing a fragment of history that can be owned, and ownership of history, that's power. That's legacy. A fascinating truth about the coin market is that its heartbeat isn't dictated by Wall Street, but by desire. When passion meets scarcity, prices can erupt overnight. In the past decade, as more investors have sought tangible assets, gold, silver, art, rare stamps, numismatics has enjoyed a resurgence. Younger investors are rediscovering what older generations always knew. Coins tell the story of civilization itself. The 1961 D. Lincoln Cent's meteoric rise is part of a larger trend. Coins once overlooked in drawers or coffee cans are now commanding attention. Specialists are scouring rolls and estate sales, hoping to find that 1 cent with the elusive doubling, the sharpest strike, or that perfect, untouched luster. It's a modern gold rush, except the gold is copper, and the mine is your own change jar. And yet there's an irony. The more people hunt for these treasures, the rarer they become. Each discovery only makes the remaining undiscovered examples more coveted, more mythical. Numismatists call this the chase effect, the psychological current that pushes collectors deeper, convincing them that maybe, just maybe, the next coin will be the one. It's this emotional roller coaster that sustains the market, the blend of logic and longing, of expertise and intuition. 1 part science, 1 part hope, and hope, as it turns out, can be quite valuable. Picture this. An aging collector sits beneath the yellow glow of a desk lamp. Before him lies a tray of Lincoln cents, each carefully inspected, each glinting faintly in the light. He picks up a 1961 D coin, examines the date, the mint mark, the curvature of Lincoln's profile. He's done this 1,000 times, but tonight something catches his eye. A shadow on the 1, a faint doubling on the "In God We Trust." His pulse quickens. If verified, that coin, that 1 in a billion, could rewrite his financial story, maybe even his family's legacy. And so, with trembling hands, he slips it into a protective case and sends it to a professional grading service. Weeks pass. Then a letter arrives. It's genuine. Mint State 67. A once-forgotten penny, now worth more than a suburban home. Stories like this ripple through collector communities, fueling curiosity, envy, and inspiration in equal measure. They remind us that wealth can hide in plain sight, that fortune doesn't always shimmer. Sometimes it rusts quietly until rediscovered. But let's step back for a moment. Not every 1961 D cent is a ticket to wealth. Most are still worth a cent. The magic lies in discernment, the ability to see value where others see none. That, too, is part of the collector's art. The great numismatists of history, men like Louis Elias Berg and B. Max Mail, didn't simply hoard coins. They saw stories. They studied the die patterns, the metallurgy, the history of the mint itself. They understood that every coin is a document, one that outlasts wars, presidencies, even empires. Owning such a coin isn't just a financial act. It's a philosophical one. It's a way of saying, I believe in continuity. I believe in legacy. The 1961 D. Lincoln cent stands at a fascinating crossroads of nostalgia and modernity. It bridges eras, from the optimism of the early 60s to the digital marketplaces of today, where collectors from around the world bid in real time for the rarest examples. On these platforms, competition is fierce. A single high-grade error coin can ignite a bidding war lasting hours, and when the gavel falls, the winner doesn't just buy a coin, they buy prestige. They buy the right to say, "I own one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever struck." And in that declaration lies something primal, the collector's hunger for immortality. Because when you hold a coin that survived decades untouched, you're holding proof that beauty, rarity, and craftsmanship can transcend time. You're touching the past, and perhaps shaping the future. So the next time you come across an Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin from 1961 with the small D beneath the date, take a closer look. Examine the details, the way the light hits the surface. Tilt it slightly. Notice any doubling, any unusual spacing, any minting anomaly. What if your coin, the one sitting forgotten in a jar, isn't just spare change? What if it's the missing piece in a story worth nearly $1 million? Because in the world of numismatics, the extraordinary often hides inside the ordinary. The next great discovery might not come from a museum vault or an auction house. It might come from you. We live in a world obsessed with the new technologies, new currencies, new investments. But coins like the 1961 D Lincoln cent remind us that true value endures. The metal may tarnish, the edges may wear, but the stories, the meaning, only grow richer with time. That's why collectors continue to search, not just for wealth, but for connection. To history, to craftsmanship, to the quiet thrill of finding something rare when the world insists it's common. So look again at your pocket change. That faint glimmer of copper might not just be a coin. It could be a fragment of America's soul. And perhaps your next great fortune. And somewhere, waiting in the shadows of billions of forgotten cents, the next $1 million Lincoln is still out there, waiting for the right pair of eyes to notice its quiet perfection. The Mint had recently moved much of its coin engraving and die creation operations from Philadelphia to a new facility in San Francisco. That meant changes in how coins were marked, those tiny letters that tell collectors where a coin was born. The S for San Francisco, the D for Denver, and of course, the coins struck in Philadelphia, which traditionally bore no mint mark at all. But here's the twist. In 1968, Philadelphia stopped producing Lincoln cents entirely. Only Denver and San Francisco handled those. So any 1968 Lincoln 1-cent coin without a mint mark shouldn't exist. And yet, whispers persist. Imagine this. You're at your kitchen table sorting through an old cigar box inherited from your grandfather. You pick up a handful of faded copper coins. They clink softly, tiny echoes of forgotten decades. One coin catches your eye. The date reads 1968, but beneath it, nothing. No S, no D, just a smooth, empty space where there should be identity. Your pulse quickens. Could this be one of them? For years, collectors have debated the authenticity of these mysterious 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent coins. Some claim they were test strikes, produced in the Philadelphia Mint as prototypes before the official transition to San Francisco. Others believe they're minting anomalies, where a die meant for another year was accidentally used. A few more imaginative minds whisper about deliberate errors, struck quietly and spirited away. A secret only a handful of mint workers would ever know. And yet, no one can prove exactly how these coins came to be. The U.S. Mint has never officially acknowledged their existence. That's what makes them so captivating and so dangerous. Because when a coin exists outside the record books, it becomes more than metal. It becomes a myth. In the numismatic world, myths drive markets. Every collector, from the novice combing through rolls of coins from the local bank, to the veteran investor who's seen every mint mark there is chasing the same feeling, the chance to hold history, to uncover something no one else has. And that's what makes the 1968 no mint mark Lincoln cent such a powerful symbol. It's not just about the money, though the potential value is staggering. It's about the possibility, the hope that one overlooked coin could rewrite your story. Because in coin collecting, stories are currency. Let's dig a little deeper into the facts behind the fascination. During 1968, the San Francisco Mint struck proof coins, meant for collectors, each bearing a small, clear S. The Denver Mint handled the circulation strikes, all with the D. Officially, every legitimate Lincoln cent of that year should carry one of those two marks. But there are verified examples of error coins in which mint marks were accidentally omitted, either due to a damaged die or an oversight during the hubbing process. Such errors are extraordinarily rare, but they do happen. Think of the 1922 no-mint mark Lincoln cent, struck in Denver, an accident caused by a filled die, now one of the most famous varieties in numismatic history. Or the 1971 no S-proof Jefferson nickel, a minting slip that turned into a six-figure rarity. These precedents fuel the obsession. Because if those could exist, officially impossible yet physically real, then why not a 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln cent? And obsession has a way of creating markets. In recent years, online platforms and private auction houses have seen bidding wars over coins labeled as 1968 no-mint mark. Some sell for hundreds. A few, authenticated under rare conditions, have reached 5- or 6-figure values. Yet, the true outlier, that whispered $969,000 valuation, refers not just to a coin's metal, but to its mythic status. It's a number that represents both scarcity and allure, a reflection of how collectors value stories that defy logic. Because in collecting, emotion moves money. Why does this matter so deeply to seasoned collectors and investors? Because numismatics is not just a hobby, it's a philosophy of preservation. Each coin is a time capsule of a country's identity, its choices, its mistakes. The 1968 no-mint mark cent stands as a reminder that even the most regulated systems, like the U.S. Mint, are still subject to human error, or perhaps human intention. And that's where the real intrigue lies. Was this coin a simple accident? Or was it deliberately struck by an insider, a silent craftsman leaving a mark by leaving none at all? There's another layer to this story: the psychology of the search itself. Collectors often talk about the hunting high, that surge of adrenaline when flipping through rolls, when a detail seems off, when a faint difference could mean discovery. It's the same rush that drives archaeologists to dig another inch, or treasure hunters to dive another mile. In that sense, every collector is both historian and explorer, and few things ignite that thrill like a supposed 1968 no-mint mark cent appearing in the wild. Social media groups light up. Photos are posted, magnified, debated. Is the surface worn or struck weakly? Could the S have faded with time? Could this be the one? 9 times out of 10, the answer is disappointment. But that one time, that single genuine discovery, is enough to keep thousands searching. If you've ever held a 1968 Lincoln 1-cent coin, look closely. Feel its weight. Run your thumb across the space below the date. What if the story of that coin mirrors your own, ordinary on the surface, extraordinary beneath? You see, this isn't just a tale of a copper coin. It's about the American dream in miniature. The belief that something small, overlooked, and nearly forgotten could turn out to be the most valuable thing of all. Let's step back for a moment and look at the broader picture, the market reality that makes such a discovery possible. Over the last decade, rare coin values have surged, outpacing traditional collectibles and even certain stock indexes. The numismatic market thrives on a perfect mix of scarcity, storytelling, and sentiment. Baby boomers are passing down their collections, and younger investors are entering the market not just for nostalgia, but for diversification. High-grade Lincoln cents, especially those with errors or anomalies, are among the most traded coins in America today. A perfectly struck 1969 S double die obverse can fetch hundreds of thousands. A 1955 version with doubled lettering remains one of the most iconic error coins in U.S. history. These examples teach an enduring truth. When passion meets rarity, price becomes secondary. That's why when whispers surface about a 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln cent, the community listens. Not because everyone expects to find one, but because everyone wants to believe it could exist. It's that belief, that fragile, shining thread that keeps the heart of numismatics alive. Coins are, after all, the closest things we have to metal memories. They pass through millions of hands, cross decades, survive wars, recessions, and revolutions. They outlast the people who spend them. And once in a while, they remind us that perfection isn't what makes something valuable. It's the imperfection, the anomaly, the story no one can quite explain. So, what would happen if tomorrow an authenticated 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent coin were to surface? The numismatic world would tremble. Auction houses would scramble. Experts would debate authenticity down to the molecular structure of its copper. Every major grading company would want the first look. And once verified, if verified, it would rewrite chapters of American minting history. Because finding one would prove that somewhere in the vast machinery of the U.S. Mint, a moment of human deviation occurred, a coin that shouldn't exist yet does, and that in itself is worth more than money. Here's a thought. Maybe you already have one. Maybe it's been in your collection for years, quietly waiting. That's the haunting beauty of numismatics. Treasure hides not beneath the earth but in plain sight. If you search your 1968 coins, look carefully. Examine the mint mark area under magnification. If there's truly no trace of an S or D and the fields appear untouched, you might just have a mystery on your hands. Send it to a trusted grading service, PCGS, NGC, or ANAX, for verification. But prepare yourself. The odds are astronomically low. Still, that's what makes it exciting, isn't it? Because even 1 in a billion is still 1. Perhaps that's why collectors say coins choose their owners. You don't find them. They reveal themselves when you're ready to appreciate them. The 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln cent may forever straddle the line between rumor and reality. Yet it continues to captivate because it embodies the essence of collecting itself: curiosity, patience, and hope. Hope that a forgotten piece of copper could change your fortunes. Hope that a century-old minting error could connect you to a story larger than yourself, and hope that, in your lifetime, you might uncover the next great American treasure, not in a mine or a museum, but in the palm of your hand. So, the next time you hear that faint metallic chime as you drop your change onto the counter, listen closely. One sound among many might be worth a fortune. One coin among billions might carry a secret, the silent signature of history itself. The 1968 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln. 1-cent coin remains a tantalizing enigma, part fact, part fable, wholly unforgettable. And for those who dare to keep searching, perhaps the next great discovery is already waiting, hidden, ordinary, patient, just like every dream that's ever come true in the world of rare coins. A small number of coins were struck that would later send shockwaves through the collecting world. Coins with no mint mark, faint errors, microscopic anomalies, and a brilliance of strike that defied their humble purpose. To the average person, they were nothing more than spare change. To a trained eye, they were a doorway to a fortune. But how can a simple Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin, bearing no mint mark at all, command nearly $1 million on today's market? To understand that, we must first step into the psychology of rarity, the invisible force that drives collectors to spend lifetimes, and sometimes fortunes, chasing perfection. You see, every collector has a moment, that heartbeat when they spot something different. A faint double die, a missing mint mark, a glimmer that others missed. It's not greed that moves them. It's discovery. It's the thrill of knowing that what they hold connects them to a secret moment in history. And the 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent is exactly that, a secret struck in copper. The Philadelphia Mint, at the time, did not place mint marks on its 1-cent coins. That much was standard. But among the billions produced, a handful of examples emerged with extraordinary detail, flawless surfaces, and striking anomalies caused by experimental die polishing and early die states. Numismatists began to notice something different, the proof-like luster on certain circulation strikes, an unusually crisp impression of Lincoln's jawline, or the subtle doubling on "In God We Trust." These were not just minting quirks. They were signatures of rarity, and rarity, when combined with historical timing, is what turns copper into gold. When one of these 1981 Philadelphia struck Lincoln cents surfaced in pristine condition, graded at the highest known level, it stunned even veteran coin experts. Its sharp details, flawless fields, and untouched surfaces defied logic for a circulation coin. The bidding wars that followed revealed something extraordinary. Emotion and history have their own market price. Collectors weren't just buying a coin, they were buying the last breath of an era, the end of solid copper, the living echo of America's minting. Craft before machines replaced the artistry of imperfection. That's why one of these coins fetched an astounding valuation, nearly $963,000. But for a moment, and consider that, a coin you could have spent on bubblegum in 1981, now worth more than a house. It's a chilling thought, not because of the money, but because of the possibility. How many of us have let small fortunes slip through our fingers disguised as everyday change? That's the mystery that keeps collectors awake at night. You see, the world of rare coins is not built on luck. It's built on awareness. The rarest finds aren't discovered by accident. They're uncovered by those who pay attention. Every blemish, every missing mark, every misaligned die is a story waiting to be told. The coin that looks normal to most people may hold within it an error, a rarity, or a metallurgical quirk that makes it unique in the entire world. The 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln 1 cent is a perfect example. While Philadelphia struck over 7 billion of them that year, only a microscopic fraction survived in flawless, gem-like condition, untouched by circulation, unscathed by time. Those that did are now among the most desired copper coins of the late 20th century. But rarity alone isn't enough to explain its near-million-dollar price tag. There's something deeper, something emotional. In a world racing toward digital currency and virtual wealth, tangible history becomes sacred. When you hold a 1981 Lincoln 1 cent coin, you're not holding metal. You're holding the craftsmanship of a generation, the touch of an engraver's hand, the ideals of Lincoln himself engraved in enduring copper. That connection, the blend of history, art, and national identity, transforms collecting from a hobby into a legacy. And for investors, that legacy translates into long-term value. Here's a little-known fact. High-grade copper coins, especially those struck before 1982, have been quietly outperforming some traditional investments. The reason is simple. They're finite. Unlike digital assets or modern bullion, you can't mint another 1981 Lincoln cent in perfect condition. Once they're gone forever, and that scarcity fuels what experts call the numismatic wealth curve, the tendency for elite-grade coins to appreciate disproportionately over time. When a 1981 no-mint mark cent sold for nearly $1 million, it wasn't just a record. It was a signal. It reminded investors that the rarest opportunities often hide in the most ordinary places. So what should you look for? If you come across an Abraham Lincoln 1 cent coin dated 1981 without a mint mark, pay attention to these details. Condition. The surface should be near flawless. No scratches, no discoloration, no contact marks. Grading companies like PCGS and NGC assign mint state ratings from 60 to 70, and the difference between a 67 and a 69 can mean tens of thousands of dollars. Color: red, red-brown, or brown. A bright, full copper red tone often commands the highest value. Strike clarity. Check Lincoln's coat lines, the separation in the hair, and the sharpness of the lettering. These reveal early die states, the first strikes from a fresh die, which produce the most desirable coins. Doubling. Examine Liberty and In God We Trust. A faint doubling here can skyrocket value. Luster. The coin should almost appear proof-like under light, a glassy mirror sheen that catches the eye immediately. But here's the emotional truth. The real treasure isn't just in owning the coin. It's in recognizing what it represents. Coins like this whisper something profound, that small things matter. That attention creates opportunity. That patience and curiosity are worth more than haste. For many collectors, the pursuit itself becomes a form of meditation, a quiet rebellion against a disposable world. Each coin found, studied, and preserved is a reminder that history rewards those who listen carefully. Now, you might be wondering, how do values like $963,000 even emerge? Who decides such a staggering number for a 1-cent coin? The answer lies at the intersection of rarity, demand, and story. Every coin has a narrative, but only a few have a myth. When investors sense that a coin marks a turning point, like the 1981 issue, bridging the end of the copper era, they're not just buying metal. They're buying the last chapter of something great. And as collectors compete to own that final chapter, the price climbs into the realm of legend. It's not unlike fine art. A painting isn't valuable because of paint and canvas. It's valuable because of what it represents. The same is true for coins. But the mystery deepens. Some experts suspect that the highest grade examples of the 1981 no mint mark, Lincoln 1 cent, may have been struck using specially prepared dies intended for proof production, but accidentally released for circulation. If true, that means a few coins escaped from the mint bearing a level of craftsmanship far beyond ordinary production quality. Imagine that. A hidden handful of accidental masterpieces drifting through the world's pockets for decades, only to be rediscovered under a magnifying glass 40 years later. That's not just numismatics. That's destiny in metal form. So what does this mean for today's collectors? And for you? It means opportunity is alive and well, hiding in the folds of American change. It means your next great discovery might already be in your possession. Whether you're an investor building a portfolio or a dreamer scanning rolls of coins from the bank, every search holds the possibility of uncovering history's next hidden gem. Because every generation has its legendary find. The 1943 bronze Lincoln cent, the 1955 doubled die, the 1969 doubled obverse, and now in our time, the 1981 no mint mark Lincoln 1 cent joins that list. A humble copper circle turned into a six-figure symbol of patience, knowledge, and faith in detail. Think about it. In a world obsessed with digital speed and instant wealth, the most valuable treasures still rest in your palm, silent and solid. That's the paradox of coin collecting. It slows time down. It reminds us that real value doesn't vanish with market crashes or software updates. It endures, etched into metal, passed through hands, waiting for someone perceptive enough to notice. So the next time you find a 1981 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, don't rush to spend it. Hold it up to the light. Study its color. Trace the lines of Lincoln's portrait, carved with the same reverence that's graced American pockets for more than a century. Ask yourself, what stories has this coin survived? Maybe it sat in a cash register in a small-town diner. Maybe it traveled across generations, unnoticed, waiting for this exact moment to remind you that even the smallest things can change a life. And maybe, just maybe, the next coin you find will be the one that history forgot until you brought it back to light. Because in the end, wealth isn't only measured in dollars. It's measured in discovery, in legacy, and in the quiet satisfaction of knowing you saw what others overlooked. That's the secret of the 1981 no mint mark Lincoln 1 cent. Not just a coin, but a message. That fortune favors those who look closer. So look closer. Your $1 million penny might already be waiting for you.